The Zentari Galactic Academy hovered like a jewel above the orbit of neutral planet 37, its architecture a seamless fusion of crystalline spires and alien alloys. Inside its gleaming halls walked the best and brightest from over 100 member species of the Galactic Union. Elites, warriors, scientists, diplomats, and now, a human. Ryan Carter adjusted the too-tight collar of his borrowed uniform and stepped out of the shuttle. He felt the shift in atmosphere immediately, not just the oxygen levels, but the stays. Curious, amused, some even looked disgusted. He was the first human to ever set foot inside this academy. "Don't get too close," someone whispered in a musical dialect he didn't recognize. Another hissed, "That's the Death World species, right? The soft ones." Ryan pretended not to notice. He'd been briefed. Earth was seen as primitive. Humans were a new addition to the Galactic Union, barely 10 years in. Their biology was often cited as high-risk, low-efficiency, their emotional volatility as problematic. But none of that mattered. He was here to learn, to represent his people, and maybe, just maybe, to prove something. Room C9 was already buzzing when he arrived for xenobiology and combat dynamics. The instructor stood at the center of a low circular arena, built like an amphitheater. He was huge, over 8 feet tall, broad-shouldered, gray-skinned, and armored in ceremonial plates. A Kalati, Ryan remembered, a warrior species bred for endurance and order. "Cadets," the instructor boomed, voice amplified by embedded comms. "I am General Vorik, and you are here to understand not only your physiology, but how it compares to others. Today, we will begin with a live demonstration." Students perked up. Vorik gestured to a flat platform, where Marnaxi Cadet, a 6-limbed avian, stood. Vorik raised a small but dense metallic rod, easily 20 kilos, and dropped it onto the Marnaxi's leg. The alien winced, squawked, and stumbled. "Standard bone stress fracture," Vorik noted. "Expected. Next." One by one, students volunteered. The results varied. Some bruised, others cracked exoskeletons. A few endured without flinching. Laughter rippled as one slippery grith splashed backward in dramatic pain. Then Vorik turned to Ryan. "Human, you are last. Step forward." The laughter intensified. Ryan walked to the platform calmly. Vorik looked down at him with clear skepticism. "Do you understand the purpose of this exercise?" "Pain tolerance and bone density comparison," Ryan replied. "Yes, sir." Vorik nodded and raised the weight again. Ryan tensed his thigh. The weight dropped. Thud. Nothing cracked. It definitely hurt. But nothing tore, nothing broke. Ryan exhaled slowly, steadying his nerves. Then, casually, he looked up and asked, "That was supposed to hurt?" Silence fell like gravity. Vorik's brow twitched. Murmurs passed between cadets. Confused, alarmed, impressed. "Hold still," the instructor said, narrowing his eyes. He scanned Ryan's leg with a medical device. No break. No sprain. Just minor bruising. Normal human tissue. No modifications. No enhancers. Ryan stepped off the platform and returned to his seat. The rest of the class watched him like he had grown a second head. Later that day, in the Academy's nutrition chamber, Ryan sat alone. Until someone approached. An insectoid alien with luminous eyes and fluttering antennae. A species Ryan recognized as Ivanari, known for their medical expertise. "You felt pain?" "Yes," the alien asked softly. "Of course," Ryan said, taking a sip of synth protein shake. "It just wasn't that bad. Your nervous system, it didn't react in the way expected. It is adaptive." Ryan chuckled. "Pain's a daily thing on Earth. We break bones, keep walking. Get sick, go to work. Our world isn't gentle." Avanari tilted their head. Fascinating. Word would spread. Ryan knew it. He hadn't come here to impress anyone. But maybe, just maybe, the galaxy didn't understand humans at all. Not yet, but they would. Ryan awoke the next morning with a dull ache in his leg. Nothing alarming. Just bruising where Vorik had dropped the weighted bar. He flexed his knee and stood up easily, wincing only slightly. On Earth, it would have barely been worth a complaint. In the sterile comfort of the Zentari Galactic Academy, it was apparently the stuff of myth. As he entered the corridor toward his second-day sessions, he noticed the change. Students glanced at him longer. Some moved aside. Others stayed openly. One tall, scale-plated reptilian even murmured, "Deathwalder," as Ryan passed. He tried to ignore it. He wasn't here to intimidate. But it was clear yesterday's stunt had shifted perceptions, and not all for the better. In the lab hall, General Vorik stood waiting with 2 assistants and a table full of diagnostic tools. Ryan blinked in surprise. There was no one else around. "Cadet Carter," Vorik said. "You will report for extended analysis." Ryan frowned. "Sir, is this about yesterday?" Vorik grunted. "Your resilience contradicts your species' documented fragility. Either the records are incorrect, or you are an anomaly. Or maybe," Ryan said slowly, "you don't know what human fragility actually means." Vorik gestured sharply. "Lie on the table." Ryan sighed and did as he was told. For the next hour, he endured scans, blood tests, joint manipulations, and neural activity readings. Vorik barely said a word until the final scan completed. "Your physiology is unmodified," Vorik finally said. "No cybernetics, no gene enhancement, no suppression of pain receptors. Your muscle density and bone mass are normal. For a human." Ryan shrugged. "Told you, we just built different." "No," Vorik muttered. "You're built disturbingly." By the afternoon lecture, the whispers had turned into bold questions. "Is it true your species can eat rotten food?" asked a 6-eyed Zentari student. "I heard you can regrow bone fragments," added another, scribbling notes. Ryan answered what he could, amused by their fascination. "We scar. We adapt. We overheat and keep running. We hallucinate under stress and still fight. I'm not special. I'm average." This shocked them more than anything. "So all humans endure pain this way?" asked Arvin, the Arvinari medic from the cafeteria. "Some more, some less. But yeah," Ryan said, "it's not about being unbreakable. We break all the time. We just don't stop." Arvin's antennae quivered. "That's a terrifying evolutionary trait." The next day, Vorik called for a secondary trial. "Pain threshold testing," he announced to the class. "Cross-species. Volunteers will receive calibrated neural stimulation to test endurance and response control." Students lined up. One by one, they endured controlled neural pulses, simulated pain from low to moderate intensity. A few made it to level 5. One particularly stoic Urari cadet made it to level 7 before collapsing in tears. Ryan's turn came. Vorik narrowed his eyes. "Begin." Level 1. Ryan barely blinked. Level 3. He inhaled through his nose. Level 5. He clenched his jaw. Level 7. He grunted, eyes narrowing. By level 8, Ryan's skin had broken into a sweat. Level 9. The class watched, stunned, as Ryan leaned forward, nodded, and said, "This feels like appendicitis. Or maybe a sprained ankle." Level 10. Vorik halted the test. Not for Ryan's safety, but for the class's sanity. "That's enough," the instructor said, staring down at him. "Any more and they might pass out." Ryan stewed, rubbing his arm. "Mildly unpleasant," he said with a grin. "But I've had worse." That night, the Academy network lit up with reports. Threads titled "Human Tolerance Records," "Carter versus Level 10 Stimulus," and "Our Earthlings All Like This" trended across internal forums. Some praised him. Some expressed fear. A few called for a psychological evaluation of his entire species. Ryan stared at the ceiling of his quarters, exhausted, a slight throb behind his eyes. He'd come to study, and now he was the subject of study. But maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. The mock combat arena was dimly lit, the walls lined with padded plates and adjustable gravity emitters. Most students saw it as a simulation room, a safe place to practice theoretical tactics. Ryan Carter, however, saw something else. It reminded him of the underground MMA gyms in Detroit. Today's lesson: reactive combat scenarios between species. General Vorik laid out the rules. No lethal force. No weapons. No biological enhancers. The objective is to disarm, not destroy. He scanned the room. Cadets will pay off based on species class. Begin warm-ups. Ryan stretched, watching the others. He noticed the Zentari trio, muscular, tall, with bone-plated arms, eyeing him again. Especially Jurox, the one who had openly mocked humans since day one. Earlier in the week, Jurox had made a show of laughing during Ryan's nerve trial. Now he whispered something to his partners, then cracked his knuckles while staring directly at him. Trouble was brewing. Ryan kept his posture relaxed. It wasn't his first time being targeted. The simulation began. Teams took to the center in turns. Arvin faced a flittering Sestari in a light sparring match and tapped out quickly. A heavy-set Groll faced off against a fluid-bodied Erlin and was immediately disarmed. Then Vorik's voice echoed. Next match, Kata versus Jurox. Ryan blinked. What? Problem, cadet. Ryan stood. No, sir. As he entered the circle, Jurox sneered. Time to prove just how tough you really are, Earth scum. Ryan exhaled. Let's just keep this clean. The signal sounded. Jurox lunged immediately, throwing a heavy fist toward Ryan's head. It was too fast for most students, but Ryan ducked under it cleanly. Years of wrestling with older brothers and sparring in back-alley gyms gave him an edge Jurox couldn't anticipate. The second blow came with a stun rod, contraband, hidden in Jurox's sleeve. It cracked into Ryan's ribs. Pain lanced through him, but instead of dropping, Ryan took a step back, blinked, and said flatly, "Okay, now I'm annoyed." The arena went quiet. Ryan moved. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't elegant. It was efficient. He swept Jurox's legs with a low kick, pivoted, and twisted the alien's arm into a lock that forced the stun rod to drop. One of Jurox's friends jumped into the circle in protest, but Ryan sidestepped him and elbowed the larger cadet in the gut, knocking him flat. The third tried to charge him from behind. Ryan turned mid-roll, grabbed a pressure point under the creature's jaw, and squeezed. The alien crumpled like a deflated balloon. The entire fight took 12 seconds. Ryan stood at the center of the arena, panting lightly, not from exertion, but from restraint. Jurox groaned on the ground, clutching his twisted wrist. One of the assistants stepped forward, scanning him for fractures. Vorik descended the platform, looking intrigued. You disarmed 3 cadets, neutralized a threat, and refrained from fatal strikes. Ryan shrugged. Like you said, sir, disarm, not destroy. You were struck with a stun rod, Vorik said, his voice lowering. Yet you did not fall. I've been tasered before. On Earth. It's not fun, but you get over it. A long pause followed. Vorik stuttered him. Then, you will report to me tomorrow morning. We are adding a supplemental course, Human Combat Psychology. You will assist in its development. Ryan blinked. Wait, what? You have demonstrated strategic control, pain resistance, situational awareness, and restraint under provocation. These are not the traits of a brute. They are the traits of a warrior. Ryan looked around. Half the class was still stunned. A few students looked at him with open awe. Others, with fear. He wasn't just the human anymore. He was the example. Later that night, Ryan sat in the quiet corner of the library. Arvin approached, antennae twitching. You did not intend to fight today, did you? No, Ryan said softly. But they wanted to prove something. I just wanted to end it fast. They underestimated you again. They don't understand humans, Ryan said. We're not unbreakable, but we're not helpless either. Arvin nodded. Then help us understand. Ryan stayed down at his scraped knuckles, then back at Arvin. Tomorrow, he said, we start with adrenaline. Ryan stood in front of the lecture amphitheater, wearing the same uniform he'd arrived in 3 weeks ago. Except now, it looked a little different. Not because the fabric had changed, but because he had. The seats were full, every cadet from his cohort, along with instructors, medical officers, and a few high-ranking observers from the Galactic Union. Even Vorik sat in the front row, arms folded, silent but watchful. On the display behind Ryan were 2 simple words in bold letters. Adapt through pain. He took a breath, then began. Most of you still think humans are anomalies, too unpredictable to understand, too fragile to be effective. That's fair. We come from a world where everything tries to kill us. Our planet doesn't just test us, it punishes us. Ice ages, earthquakes, viruses, wars, and still, we survived. Not because we're strong in the way you define strength, but because we adapt. Pain taught us how. A long silence followed. No one moved. No one interrupted. Ryan clicked the next slide, an anatomical diagram of a human nervous system, highlighted around the pain receptors. You call it fragility. We call it a training program. Laughter, hesitant at first, but genuine. The course had been dubbed Human Combat Psychology, but it quickly expanded beyond tactics. It became a study of human resilience, physiological, psychological, and emotional. Ryan walked them through real scenarios. Medics pulling shrapnel from comrades under fire. Athletes running marathons on torn ligaments. Civilians lifting wreckage to save strangers. He didn't romanticize it. He told them about fear, too. About grief. About breakdowns and mistakes. He showed a brief video clip, an Earth firefighter crying after saving a child from a burning building. This, he said, pausing the frame, is human strength. Not the biceps. Not the bone density. This, feeling everything and still choosing to act. Several alien cadets scribbled furiously into datapads. Even Vorik's expression softened. After the lecture, Ryan led volunteers through exercises modeled after Earth-based military training. Pressure drills, reaction tests, emotional simulations. Most aliens struggled. Flix, the floating jellyfish-like Cimarron, froze during a timed obstacle course when presented with a simulated wounded teammate. You can't just logic through panic, Ryan explained gently, helping Flix up. You train your instincts. You accept fear, then move anyway. Flix nodded. Humans function through chaos. Exactly, Ryan said. We're not faster or stronger. We're just better at making decisions when everything's falling apart. Weeks passed. Something remarkable happened. The Academy's entire perspective shifted. Instructors from other species began integrating human resilience training into their combat prep. Cadets stopped using fragile as a synonym for weak. In fact, they began applying the term with new respect. Fragility, one Ireland scholar wrote in their thesis, is not a limitation. It is the engine of evolution. Vorik, once Ryan's harshest critic, formally invited him to co-author an interspecies combat manual. Your species has redefined the doctrine of endurance, he said. We were wrong to dismiss what we didn't understand. Ryan only smiled. That's kind of our thing. Being underestimated. The final week, Ryan stood outside the Academy's starport, waiting for his shuttle back to Earth. Arvin stood beside him, carrying a thin data scroll. I've compiled your entire course into a format readable by most galactic species, they said. It will become required reading next cycle. Ryan raised an eyebrow. You're serious? Yes, Arvin said. Because we need to stop fearing what we don't understand and start learning from it. Ryan looked out the viewport at the stars. Guess I did what I came to do. No, Arvin said. You did more. You showed us that surviving pain isn't a flaw. It's a philosophy. As Ryan boarded the shuttle, a final message blinked on his datapad. A personal note from Vorik. Carter, next time the galaxy thinks humans are weak, let them. We'll know better. Ryan grinned. Because the truth was simple. Yes, humans were fragile.